the Bleav in Iowa State podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Carter.
And I'm your host, Cody Vanciello.
Cody, this is gonna be a football heavy episode today. On3 put out their too early top 25 list. They did one right after the national championship. Now they have an updated one after spring practice. So I am going to share my screen. Um, it was very interesting to me. Some teams were left out that you thought were going to be on there, and then some teams are in there. You're like, huh, interesting. But I'm about to share that.
Yeah, like as you look at that, like what are your thoughts like having like a way too early like top 25? Like, does it mean much to like really be on that list, or is it just like something like you could take but not like really be serious about?
I mean, to me, with that, I think it is something that you have to take with a grain of salt, honestly, because like I think with that type of stuff, like it's cool to be acknowledged by that, but you still also got to remember that, like, let's say if there's any other like coaching moves or stuff like that, then you have to take that into account. It's just nice to see, if your team is on that list. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for that, I think it's like a nice indication of where you are standing. Obviously, you don't take it like as like very big, but it's nice to like maybe get the recognition and like it may set some expectations that might be a little too high, but I think it ultimately just comes down to like the early like way too early like preseason stuff. It's whatever. At the end of the day, it just comes down to what you do on the field.
Exactly. All right, Cody. So here we go, right here. Um, I guess we'll just do it row by row. So, so in the first row, number one Texas, number two Notre Dame, number three Clemson, number four uh, Penn State, and number five Ohio State. Do you have any problems with these teams, or a team that surprised you that's in the top five? Or
I guess well, I haven't been able to pay attention too much to Clemson, so I'm surprised they're really high up. But I'm gonna guess that like they're trusting Dabble Sweeney and like what's going on at Clemson because I believe Kate Klubnik is back for Clemson.
yeah, Kate Klubnik is back for them, and I believe they have a lot of returning production. So I believe that's probably why they're at number three, because they like
Yeah,
their upside.
that makes sense. And seeing Ohio State, and Penn State, like four, like 5 and 4 respectively, I can see that because I mean Ohio State did lose like some key pieces from the national championship team, and then Penn State also lost like Abdul Carter and Tyler Warren to the draft in the first round. So I'm definitely not like I'm not surprised to see them like a little bit lower. But obviously, there's still trust that they're going to be contending for a national title. And I think Penn State really took a step up this year and like actually get into the semifinals. So I think if Penn State can do that again, maybe they can get to the national title. But it'll come down to see if they can actually perform when the lights shine the most.
Well, yeah, and I think like for Penn State, this is like a different territory because Penn State has always been that team to where their season will usually always come down to the Michigan game or Ohio State game, or usually they have one of those games that they shouldn't lose. Like they somehow find a way, like they sort of got screwed in that 2021 game at Kinnick, but like those tough road games at teams where you think that that you're better than, but you still find a way to lose those games. So for Penn State, I believe with Ohio State basically having having either Julian Sand taking the reins over at Ohio State, it's gonna be interesting to see during like Big Ten media days who the media picks to win the conferences because I'm betting it's probably going to be either one of those two.
Yep. And then I'm looking at Texas and Notre Dame being 1 and 2. Texas, I think, like I mean, their first year in the SEC, they have almost won the conference, and I mean, they were just a couple like a score away from basically a time with Ohio State in that playoff game, and who knows how that could have gone. But I mean, Texas obviously looks like they've adapted well to the SEC, so I think that's going to give them a leg up when it comes to competing for a national championship. And Notre Dame obviously having a great year, going to the national title game. So I think Notre Dame could actually like still like be viable and not be like clown them like I some people clown Notre Dame on for a while, but I think
Yeah.
they're back to being actually a legitimate contender.
Yeah, they made some solid moves in the portal, getting some D linemen and some wide receivers, helping out CJ Carr, the young guy who's finally taking over the reins. So yeah, and then with Texas, yeah, it's now the era of Arch Manning. I'm really interested to see how Texas responds after making it to the Final Four last year and basically were an overtime period away from winning the SEC in their first year. So this top five is interesting. I'd like to move down to this 6 through 10 because this 6 through 10, yeah, I got some questions. So 6 through 10, we're gonna talk about that right now. 6 Oregon, 7 Alabama, 8 Georgia, 9 Illinois, and then 10 Florida. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Oregon obviously like they had probably like their best like the first year in the Big Ten. They basically ran the conference, but they got annihilated in the Rose Bowl by Ohio State. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously that was a very disappointing note to end the season for Oregon. And I mean, what they lost like Dylan Gabriel, who was a Heisman candidate last year. So let's see how they respond to that. And then Alabama, kind of having a disappointing year, at least the Alabama standards. First year in the Kalen Force, but still, I think Alabama will find a way. Like, the branding will be big for them, and I think just it being Alabama, they're still going to be competitive, but it's going to be a much harder time in the SEC than it used to be for them. And speaking of the SEC, Georgia, the current SEC champs, Kirby Smart is looking to stay at the top dog, even with Texas coming for the throne. So you're gonna have to look out for that. Illinois is a very interesting team to have like very high. I'm guessing like a lot of like transfer portal moves were seen as like great moves for the finding a line eye.
Yeah. Um, Illinois is interesting to me. They had a double digit win season last year, 10-3, beating South Carolina. Luke Altman returns back for the Illini, but they are losing Zachariah Franklin and Pat Bryan. So that will be interesting. I do think, and they lost one of their best running backs to Georgia. So I Bleav it was what Josh McCray who left for Georgia. So I mean, for Illinois, like how are they going to be able to respond to those losses? And Georgia um, with Carson Beck leaving to go to Miami, this is gonna be an interesting transition for them. And then obviously with Georgia getting a whole bunch of defensive guys in the draft like always. It's going to be a year of transition for them. Their defense is going to be good, but what is Georgia going to be offensively? I think that's going to be the question for the Bulldogs. Bama, like the question for me for Bama is this going to be the new version of Alabama, or is this just a blip on the radar? Because we always saw with Nick Saban coach Alabama teams, every time they went like 9-3 or 10-2, which is totally not up to Bama standards. Like, is this going to be a spot where like is this 9-3, 10-2 going to be a new era for Bama? So that's going to be a thing. We do have something in the chat. So Cyclone Meatball, welcome to the show. And we're gonna show it on the stream. So Cyclone Meatball, thank you guys. So he said, so Illinois at 9. So can they be a quality win for each team they lose to this year? That's an interesting question. It probably will be since it's the Big Ten. I'm not gonna lie. Cyclone Meatball. Knowing that uh,
Oh, actually, wait, let me see that question. I'm gonna look at that question again for Illinois. I
Yeah,
think as long as Illinois takes care of their business, like they can take care of their, if they can get like a quality win or two, then anybody that beats Illinois will be good. So yeah, Illinois. So they could potentially be a quality win for a team that beats them. It's just as long as Illinois is not like dropping games they shouldn't, and they pick up a win or like a win or two that like maybe wasn't like on the being cards for many. But
yeah,
that's the biggest thing. It's just it can Illinois perform to their standards, and can they get like a couple of like wins that are huge for them?
definitely. And I think Illinois is looking to be maybe in for most years maybe to be in that tier two of the Big Ten instead of and maybe in some years knocking on the door
Yeah, and I mean,
of
I'm looking at the Illinois schedule right now, and yeah, uh, a couple of huge ones they could potentially have. Like, they really only have like one big marquee win, which would be Ohio State. But
right.
that would put it. Yeah, if they can get the win over Ohio State, then that means anyone that beats them will have like a pretty quality win. It's just a matter of can they beat Ohio State? That's the big test for Illinois.
That's gonna be the thing. Is that game at home, Cody?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. That game is in Champaign, so hey, who knows how that's gonna. And then number 10, I feel like there was probably some bias towards this with Andy Staples because if you know anything about Andy Staples went to Florida, so he has Florida at 10. Um, and even me as a Gators fan, man, I feel like this is way too high for Florida, honestly. Because I mean, I'm gonna tell you the we're gonna go through their September or
yeah. So take a look at a Florida schedule.
game stretch I'm talking about. So after they start the season off with LIU and USF, they're at LSU. The week after that, it's at Miami. Off week, they host Texas at home, at Texas A&M, and then Mississippi State, and then another off week before they have to play Georgia and Jacksonville. I mean, I guess I mean, if you believe that DJ Lagway is going to take that next step and that their defense is going to be much improved and that the offensive weapons that they have are going to be much improved, then I guess that's worthy of number 10. But to me, just being a realist, I think Florida is way too high.
Yeah, I mean, last year was like kind of to me like a bit of an overachieving year because like so you
Yeah,
saw the way that schedule was laid out. Florida had like one of the hardest schedules in the entire country, and I mean, we I think we said it on the show like before the season. We didn't know if Florida would be able to get more than 4 wins, but here they were. They ended up at like what 7-5 for the bowl game.
yeah, yep. After the bowl, 7-5 for the bowl game, and then with the bowl win 8-5. So yeah,
So yeah, I think they did find something there. So I think that's a great foundation for them. And I mean, the way they have like they do have difficult tests in Death Valley against LSU. You're at Texas A&M, and then you do host Tennessee. So I mean, those are the two big tests, and they come relatively early in the season for Florida. Having to go to Baton Rouge and then going to College Station, those are two places you usually don't like to play. I mean, I think out of those two, they're more likely to win at College Station than they are in Baton Rouge.
yeah. I mean, and the weird thing for me, just as a Florida fan, I'm used to playing Tennessee like usually like in like the third Saturday in September, which is usually when the game is. But now they're playing that game a week before they play Florida State, which is interesting. So I mean,
Yeah,
like
and speaking of
it's
Tennessee,
gonna be something that like to the
yeah, I think the reason why is because Tennessee is going to be playing Georgia in September. So that's second. No,
yeah.
they got the non-con against UAB, which is an odd time to have that kind of non-con, but whatever.
Is there non con in November?
No, no, no. In September, like which would typically replace that third Saturday in September, where Tennessee will play Florida.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
UAB replaces that Florida spot for Tennessee.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, man, that is gonna be an interesting stretch for Florida. We're gonna see how they do. So let's move on to this next row. So I'm gonna read the teams off. We have Texas Tech at 11, South Carolina at 12, Auburn coming in at 13, 14 SMU, a playoff participant, and then LSU at 15. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Texas Tech being one of the runners. I mean, yeah, they got the bag, just so I wouldn't be surprised if like Texas Tech has been uh, like noted as like one of the contenders in the Big 12, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially with how much NIL that they would have. It wouldn't make sense that like they were able to get like some pretty high value, high market value guys. So, and I think under McGuire, Texas Tech was like right there. I mean, they were they were one of the few teams that like them. They went in. Their Jack tries to beat Iowa State, who was then like number 11 in the country. So they can't compete, and they can beat these teams. So I think Texas Tech, along with like Iowa State, BYU, and I'd say Arizona State. We have to see how they are. I think Texas Tech's in that upper echelon of the Big 12.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm on a wait and see approach with Texas Tech because we've seen the Texas Tech hype trains before, and I feel like with Texas Tech is going to be one of the extremes. It's either going to be that Texas Tech is going to be really good and they're going to make the title game, or it's going to be the typical Texas Tech that we always see where they end up 8-4. So like for me, it's one of those extremes. Um, South Carolina is interesting to me. Um, they did get they did lose a lot on defense, um, but their quarterback is returning. So it's good. I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. I think they might take a step back. Auburn, they hit the portal at quarterback, and they do have some nice position players, and their defense is going to be good. So I do think Auburn will be better. SMU, um, Kevin Jennings has returned, and they basically have the same team from last year. So I expect SMU to be a force in the ACC. LSU LSU is interesting to me. LSU I think is properly at 15. Um, I think with Garrett Nussmeier coming back for another year, um, it'll be it'll be intriguing to see because I mean defensively, will they get better defensively? We'll see. Because until that defense like gets better, it's gonna be 8-4, 9-3 level. And I think until that defense gets improved, I think that's where they're gonna be with Brian Kelly, even though they should be way better than what they are. But I think LSU at 15 is a good fit for them.
Yeah, I think just like my thing would be like, will Garrett Nussmeier take an extra step up?
Yeah, no, that's a very fair question because it's just like, can he come to get to another level? Because there was a few games where he came back and he looked good, but then there was a few games where he looked very bad. So which one are you going to get? So I think with this, I mean, I think so. I say um three of these teams in the top 15, 11 through 15, are properly placed, but I'm putting a wait and see on Auburn and South Carolina. We'll have to see how their quarterback play is. So now we're going to move on to 16 through 20. At 16, we have Arizona State. 17, we have Michigan. 18, BYU. 19, Ole Miss. And 20, Miami.
Yeah. I mean, the Big 12 is represented obviously by Arizona State, who is the reigning and defending Big 12 champs, and then you got BYU, two teams who are in contention for to go to Arlington right at the end of the regular season. So obviously Arizona State, Iowa State were the ones that played in Arlington, and obviously Arizona State just wiped the floor with the Slums with Cam Scatterboo, and I mean Cam Scatterboo was running all over us. So I mean, anytime I see Cam Scatterboo being mentioned like the NFL draft, they always show the highlights of him at the Big 12 title game, which makes sense. But it's just infuriating as an Iowa State fan to still watch that. It's like how many times they got to show like him just running over our defense?
Yeah, I know. And now my NFL team has to face him twice a year. But we shared up our trenches, so we're still gonna get those dubs against the Giants. So I'm not worried.
Yeah,
Um,
I think
but
for me, like when it comes to Arizona State, Sam Levitt is going to be the key. Like I think Sam Levitt's going to get a lot more. Like he's going to be responsible for a lot more plays now.
yeah,
That he's the main man in my eyes.
yeah. I mean, the good thing is that they have Jordan Tyson back, and they had some solid finds in the portal. They had a pretty good recruiting class too. I Bleav they have like the number one recruiting class right now, currently in the Big 12, um, just right above Kansas, for our current Big 12, or at least for class 2026. They have some nice guys coming in. So I expect Arizona State to be probably just as good as they were last year. I think one of the things for them is going to be that the how the running back from Army, how his running style translates to the Big 12. So that'll be interesting. Michigan, for me, it's gonna come down to Underwood, their big money recruit that they brought in this year. And it looks like from like spring practices that right now he's the guy. So, um, I mean, with Michigan, how does he, you know, mature as a freshman over the year? I do think that they'll have better quarterback play than they did last year, and also Davis Warren is the backup. But Michigan is a mystery to me. I do think they're still properly ranked. BYU, BYU basically has a lot to prove. And how would that beat down of BYU? BYU sort of felt slighted because of the tie breaking rules, and they felt like they should have been in Arlington rather than Iowa State. So BYU is going to be really really good, and they basically have everybody coming back. Ole Miss, um, I think they're also properly ranked right here. They lost Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is also on the Giants. And funny thing is, Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo are teammates now on the New York Giants together. But Ole Miss, I expect them to be in the mix for the SEC. And then Miami, as you know, they have acquired Carson Beck. So it's going to be interesting to see how Miami is going to be post post Cam Ward. So I think Miami will also be a force in the ACC still.
Yeah, I think just the whole Carson Beck drama here in the offseason has given a lot of eyes. I mean, that kind of what I expect. Like Carson Beck even going to Miami in the first place. There's a lot of drama, but now you have the whole situation with him and his ex, one of Hannah Cavender, and I mean
Oh
the
yeah,
Cavenders are a notable name in the state in in Miami lore. So there's a lot of drama going on in Miami. So we're gonna see how that like translates to the football season.
no, definitely, man. It's going to be an interesting story to follow. And then lastly, we're going to look at the final list. We have Tennessee at 21, Nebraska at 22, Iowa State at 23, Louisville at 24, and the Iowa Hawkeyes at 25. Yeah, I have a feeling that there's a few of these teams that don't even belong in this in this last list because they haven't done anything. But I'm gonna have you talk about this last list, and then we're gonna do who do you think deserve to be higher, and then who deserve to be lower, but I want to see your thoughts on this final line of teams right here.
For Tennessee, I mean, they just got out of the whole Nico situation, and I mean, their quarterback is like now the quarterback that was originally committed to UCLA from App State, but because of Nico coming into UCLA, he decided to like leave UCLA, and now he's at Tennessee. So talk about a full circle like moment right there. Like talk about a trade off of quarterbacks right there, and I mean, I don't know where Tennessee will stand. Just like the whole situation is just kind of put Tennessee in a very, very tough spot because the NIL wise, and like it shows just the volatility of NIL and how like ego can affect and whatnot. So we can see how Tennessee resolves that. And obviously, they just got done making the college football playoff, even though they got trounced by by Ohio State and Columbus at the shoe. So I'm just interested to see if Tennessee can get some production, maybe better from the new quarterback at Tennessee than Nico did. Because I mean, Nico was an all right quarterback, but I mean, I think they could do better. And wondering if this QB that they brought in from UCLA can do. I think both players like play about the same, like and they have the similar stats. But I think with the less of a head case with the new quarterback, I think Tennessee might be able to do a little bit better because now they don't have to worry about like all this off season, off the field, NIL drama, and whatever. So I think this puts Tennessee in a good spot to still be a competitor in the SEC.
Yeah, and like we talked about with Florida, they're playing Florida the week before they play Vanderbilt. So and the host Vanderbilt home this year, and Vanderbilt's not gonna be. It's not gonna be an easy game. They're not an easy game, and I gotta highlight this comment by a guy, Cyclone Meatball. I was cracking up when I saw this. We're gonna talk. We're gonna put it on the stream. But he said Carson Beck is the Pete Davidson of college football. Yeah, I would have to agree.
Yeah, I'd have to agree too. I have to agree with that too. I saw that. I was like, which that actually makes a lot of sense.
Right. Um.
Yeah. All right. I guess Nebraska. I mean, it's crazy how like this whole like thing of like Nebraska and Iowa State taking jabs at each other. I guess it would mainly start with like Matt Rule and his comments about competing in the Big Ten versus the Big 12, and he kind of like, in a way, kind of insinuated that the Big 12 was a lesser like conference of the Big Ten. And I think that would just rile up both the Nebraska and Iowa State fan bases. And obviously, we saw that drama unfold on Twitter over the last like few days, like the last like couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been nice to jab back and forth with the Nebraska fans. They love living in the past. They love bringing up the all-time record against Iowa State. They love saying, "Oh, we're still a better program than you are," even though we've been better than them basically this entire decade. Like, like you literally just won a bowl game last year for the first time in like 7 or 8 seasons. So, and we won double-digit games last year, something that you guys have yet to do in the Big Ten. So, I mean, come on now.
I mean, if they were okay with being like 3-6 in the conference consistently and beating consistently like in the mid tier to bottom tier, that's fine with us. I mean, yeah, obviously, and I think Iowa State, meanwhile, they position themselves to be like a constant competitor in the Big 12 and contending like to maybe win a conference title. So if Nebraska, you're okay with staying in the Big Ten, hey, you got your money, I guess. But if you want to be stuck being in the middle of the pack and all that, go do you.
Yeah, you do you, boo. Not to mention, we also own their state in recruiting, so we take all their best players from them. And they say that they don't want their own players, so I'm like, hey, Iowa State will take them. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean Iowa State, they do have like we continue to have that pipeline. Defensive coordinator John Haycock has that Nebraska pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of yeah, all the coaches do, and they have some tight relationships there with the high school coaches. So Iowa State will continue to get players from there, good players from there at that. Um, yeah, let's talk about our team. Let's talk about our Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah, I mean you obviously like lost like quite a bit of talent to the draft. your two biggest wide receivers, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel, are together in Houston. You obviously lose offensive lineman Jalen Travis and defensive back Darren Porter to the draft as well. And I mean, you also had quite a few unsigned free agents: Malik Verdon, Jared Shingleton, Miles Purchase, Jared
Hmm.
Hufford, and Steve Klotz. All of those guys made some like major contributions to Iowa State, and they were in some way, shape, or form a part of what made like the 2024 season so historical for the Cyclones.
Right. Yeah. I think with me for the Cyclones is just there. We have talent, but there's a lot of unproven talent. We've seen what Chase Soul can do. He did it on the Group of Five level at ECU. I do think he'll be able to translate over to the Big 12. Also with Xavier Townsend, a guy that we recruited in this 2021 class. He returned. He grew up with Rocco Becht, so they're already going to have that rapport. They played together on the same Pee Wee Football League team, so they already have that that brotherhood from when they were kids. So that will be interesting. And then a few other things that I find intriguing for the Cyclones is that we're going to have a very, very young secondary. The secondary, at least for the last 3 or 4 years, was something that we could hang our hat on. And I think we still do. We have Tez and stuff, and we still have Jeremiah Cooper, but just having some other young guys stepping into the fold where Bo Freeler isn't on this defense anymore or Leak is not here anymore on this defense anymore. But I think these guys. The good thing is that a lot of these secondary guys did get some playing time last year, with both of those guys being injured in some of the games last year. And then also another position I'm looking at is the defensive line. We have a lot of young talent on the D line. I do think the D line is going to be the key to the season for Iowa State. Um, to see because one of the things is Iowa State going to be able to get pressure this year? One of the things they struggled at, they only had 16 sacks last year in 14 games. So I feel like they're going to have to improve on that to have a chance to get to where they want to be or where they were last season.
Yeah, I think the D line's going to come down to. I think I just remembered Cannon Butler was a guy that we picked up from UNI, and I think Iowa
Oh
State also
yeah,
picked
yeah,
up the Northern Iowa defensive line coach.
yeah. That's
So
correct. Yeah,
yeah, and from the time that he was at Northern Iowa had some great like defensive line like units. So I think it can be good, and then obviously you can see with Easy Agu as well. So I believe he's he's still with the team.
yep,
Yeah, yeah. And then you see maybe like Zamir Hawk takes that like that tackle position along with like Dominique Orange, and then obviously you can bring a linebacker down like a guy like Kale Fazina. You can bring him down, or Caleb Bacon even, because Caleb Bacon should be fully healthy now. So maybe you bring Caleb Bacon down from the linebacker position, play like that the Marcel Spears type of role.
yeah. It's going to be interesting for the clones to see how good they are. I still do expect them to be in the top half of the Big 12. I think. I mean, I've been saying in my hot text that I think that they're good enough to make it back to the title game and even win the Big 12. So we'll see what happens with them. Let's talk about Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess like offensively, like if we're speaking offensively, Rockets. Yeah, I mean, I think we said a lot about Iowa State, so I think we could real quick talk about these last two teams here with the Louisville Cardinals and
yep,
the Iowa Hawkeyes out of the. So Louisville, I mean, they had a pretty solid year. Tyler Shaw was the main man, and obviously he got drafted to the NFL. So I think Louisville will be one of those teams like could be pretty competitive in a relatively weak ACC, and then maybe they could be like alongside Miami.
yeah. I think so because I believe what does it in 2023 they made it to the title game. 2024 they had a pretty solid, pretty solid year last year. So I expect Louisville to be good again. Yeah, Iowa. I mean, they got. Mark Gronowski in the portal, but apparently he's still injured. Um, and I mean, like always with them, it's going to depend on what are they going to be offensively. Like always the thing with the Hawkeyes. They used to always pride themselves on getting double digit wins by playing really, really good defense, but the defense is not as good. They've lost a lot defensively. Um, so Iowa, I want to take a look at their schedule. Let's take a look at Iowa's schedule because this schedule is pretty tough.
Yeah. So I've got it pulled up on my right now. So their schedule is like so they open up the season with the game against U Albany, and then week two, September 6th, that'll be the Cyhawk game in Ames. So you know for sure that Iowa State, like Iowa does want to take that trophy back, and they want to continue the streak of winning in Ames because Iowa State hasn't won in their home stadium since 2011. So if I mean, they want to continue that trend if you're Iowa. And then I think obviously for Iowa State, you want to be able to actually win it, win in your home field and keep the title in Ames, where it should belong, by the way. But after that, they host UMass, and then they open up Big Ten play at Rutgers, and then come back home to host Indiana for homecoming. So we're going to see how Indiana is after that historic season for Kurt Signetti and company. And then following the bye week, they're in the they're in Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. Then they get to host Penn State, host Minnesota, and then host Oregon for a three-game homestand. They travel to Los Angeles, travel take on the USC Trojans. They come back home for senior day, take on Michigan State, and then on Black Friday they take on Nebraska in Lincoln.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. I think for them, it's gonna depend on quarterback play with Iowa. Um, now, I mean, so like always, you know, I think they'll be solid. I have them going like probably just as good as they were last year. I think they're gonna go 8-4. I could possibly see 9-3, especially if that Penn State game is a night game, or let's say
Yeah,
if Oregon or like I could see them knocking off Oregon. But like yeah, let's look at this top 25. And do you have like two or three teams that you thought were ranked too high? And then we're going to do two or three teams that were ranked too low.
I feel like Auburn has just like they haven't proven lately that they can still like. I mean, last year was not great for them, so I feel like Auburn should like be maybe knock down a couple of spots. I'd say probably I put Iowa State and Iowa over Nebraska.
Yeah.
I think this just the shape of the Cyclones and Hawkeyes. Like I think they're in slightly better shape than Nebraska. And then the Texas Tech, I'd have to see. That's very bold for Texas Tech in the top like 15, but that could work out. I would just need to see like more of that. The top five, pretty stable, I'd say. Maybe you swap Penn State and Clemson. That's about it. And then yeah,
Yeah, I know for me, the two teams that I would lower or I would take out, Nebraska doesn't need to be. Nebraska hasn't proven anything at 22, and then Auburn at 13, I think is way too high. And I'm also gonna say Texas Tech because I just like the they probably will be good, but I don't know. I don't believe in the hype train for Texas Tech because they haven't proven it yet. So like, what makes you think that they're gonna do it now? Obviously, having money is a different thing. But did you spend your money watching? It looks like they did, but we'll have to see. We'll definitely have to see. Now the teams that I thought three teams that are rated too low. Um, Iowa State at 23 should be way higher. I think Iowa State should at least be in like the top 15. Um, I will say that Arizona State is also ranked too low. They should also be in like the top 15 as well. And then I'm going to say too low, too low, too low. I'm gonna say Tennessee should be ranked at like at Ole Miss's spot. I think Tennessee will be decent this year, but those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think Tennessee could be a couple spots higher for sure. I think I would put them or Ole Miss. Like unless Ole Miss could replicate what they did, but I feel like Ole Miss was just they were hit or miss. I mean, they had games they looked great, and then they had like put up a couple stingers like they did against Kentucky. So that's where I see Ole Miss at.
Yeah, Kentucky, Florida, all basically all their losses were stinkers. But like, and prevent them from making the playoff, even though their coach was trying to vouch for them. But yeah, but this is this is the too early top 25. Um, but if you want to bet win totals, uh, there is a place where you can do that. You can do that with MyBookie.
Yeah, MyBookie is the trusted sponsor of Bleav in Iowa State, and there you can take a look at like live prop bets. Whether you're looking at the NBA playoffs, I mean, you had a couple of first round advancements. The Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Los Angeles Lakers in 5 games to advance. So you could, if you put the Timberwolves to advance, then you made some money there. Hockey is heating up. I mean, I stayed up late last night to watch the Hurricanes Devils game. That went to double overtime. So you probably were staying up really late for that. And then
Hmm.
yeah, a few like live bets. I mean, baseball is going on, so you have a lot of opportunities there to make some money. But yeah, live like college football total win totals like should be up for a lot of teams now. And if you feel like that, like who's gonna win how many games, then you head over to my bookie.
Yes. Sign up with our promo code MM50 to sign up. Make sure you mention the Believe in Iowa State podcast and at my bookie. If you know ball, go and make money. So, with that being said, thank you guys for joining the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Few things before we go. We want to thank FeedSpot for being a great. Well, actually, you know what? We're gonna just make sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Also, you know what? Also do it through word of mouth. Hey, if you really like this show, send it to your friends. Send it to anybody else. We have all these different social media outlets right here. So if you're on any of those, share the show with everybody that you know. And also a huge prop and thanks to FeedSpot, we're a top 15 sports podcast still in the state of Iowa. Thank you, state of Iowa listeners. We appreciate that more than you know. And then for to find us, we're mostly on Twitter. Um, if you want to find us on there, this is where Cody can be found at Matt Campbell Impersonator. He's pretty cool on there. And then me, I'm at Side Tie Guy on Twitter. So if you want to chop it up with me, you can. You have anything else to add before we leave, Cody? All right. So with that being said, this is the Believe in Iowa State podcast. So for Tyler Carter,
And for Cody Ventiello,
this is the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Roll clones, baby.
let's go state.